I'll definitely be picking up 1 Second Too Late's album World Time Bomb that's being sold all over Canada. Maybe you want to be a famous guitarist like those guys from 1 Second Too Late. This informative segment by Steve Dowson will help you achieve a new sound from your guitar. He'll show us a unique modification called scalloping that will change the way you play. Watch and learn.
I bet you didn't know this, but the guitar you're looking at has been highly modified for better speed, accuracy, and vibrato. The funny thing is, the modification wasn't done in an expensive custom shop. It was done in my garage. Hi, I'm Steven Dowson, and let me introduce you to a concept known as scalloping, and show you how easy it is to do on your own. But first, let me tell you what scalloping is all about.
Ever since guitars have been roaming the earth, people who are serious about playing them have always looked for ways to modify them and make them easier to play. In the 1980s, a young boy from Sweden named Yngwie Malmsteen created a secret method into improving the speed and vibrato capable on guitar. The method I'm talking about is called scalloping, a classical method used on string instruments. Scalloping involves scooping out the wood of the guitar fret to make a concave curve in the neck. Since no guitars come like this, scallop guitars are very rare. However, in this segment, I will be teaching you how easy it is to become a handyman and to do them yourself. First off, you're going to need a few basic items. 3 types of sandpaper: 80 grit, 320 grit, and 600 grit. You will need a rotary tool with a rotary kit, which includes a buffer. You can buy this at Canadian Tire for around $20. You will need a metal file, masking tape, and an X-Acto knife. You will also be needing some Murphy oil soap and a soft cloth to apply it with. Before you begin, you will need to remove your guitar's neck from its body. Remember, it's going to be a dusty job, so a mask and goggles are required. So let's begin part 1. The first thing you're going to do is tape over the metal frets. We do this because we are sanding down the board and we don't want to damage the frets. Place a piece of masking tape over the frets. Use your fingers to pinch in the tape towards the frets. Use the X-Acto knife to cut along the frets once pinched in. Remove the side pieces of tape. Once you have a thin line of tape covering the fret, press the excess tape down onto the back of the neck. After all the frets have been taped, tape the back of the neck. This will hold down the pieces of the fret tape that were laid before. Now that your guitar is taped up, you're ready to start scalloping. To begin, grab your metal file. You'll want to run a groove in between the middle of the fret. Do this for each one of the frets. You don't need to go that deep since you're only going to do this to make a mark where you're going to start your sanding. Try to stay in the middle of each fret. Once you have made a significant groove in the board, you're ready to start the actual sanding down. For part 3, we are just going to scallop the first 5 frets. These are the hardest frets to do because they are the biggest, but the process applied is the same throughout. Grab your rotary tool and attach your 80 grit spin handle. It should say 80 on the top. Use your markers and start sanding down the board slowly. You will want to be making a back and forth motion as you sand. Your objective is to make little mountains between each fret, so your sanding should be very deep in the middle and gradually go up to each fret marker. Basic shape should take form. Once you have made the basic shape, grab your mini 80 grit attachment to fill the rough edges. Once you're satisfied with your scallops, it's time for hand sanding. Part 4, we are going to be sanding twice. Grab your 80 grit sandpaper and start hand sanding your fretboard. The 80 grit should take up a bit more of the fretboard, but this is good to make your scallops a bit more curved to your desire. Once you have sanded your scallops with the 80 grit, it's time to do some fine sanding. Grab your 320 grit and repeat the same process you just did. The 320 grit is finer sandpaper and this will make the fretboard smoother and easier to play. Once you have fine sanded the fretboard, it's time to apply our Murphy oil soap. Get your soft cloth and apply a bit of the soap to the cloth. Once you have done this, you will be able to start scrubbing down your fretboard with the soap. After applying the soap, let your neck sit for around 20 minutes. Once you come back from your break, it's time to do our final touches in Part 5. For the first part of Part 5, you'll need to sand one more time. Grab your 600 grit and start super fine sanding your newly oiled fretboard. We super fine sand the board because we are trying to get rid of any excess wood that might have popped up during the drying process. Once we are done super fine sanding, it's time to buff your board. Grab your buffing attachment and start to buff out your frets. Buff them out until your board looks nice and shiny. We buff the board to get the smooth, slick feeling back onto the board that was on it originally. Look over your neck a couple of times. Once you're happy with your guitar, you're ready for the fun stuff. String her up and start playing. It'll feel weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's like playing on air. And if you're too afraid to carve up your $500 guitar, don't worry. Head down to your local guitar repair shop and ask them for some warped necks to work on. They should give you one for around $10. So play hard, play fast, and don't forget to smile. For the Journal, this is Stephen Delson.